How are you, Mike? Thank you so much for joining us. Gerald.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Mike, you know that long-term friend.
Are you the boss? You look the same.
Oh, so do you.
Thank you very much.
Please welcome Mike Leven. Over 50 years, he received a lot of reward. He's such a nice gentleman. He always helping people. He helped fund the Ahoya when there are only 12 members. And I was recalled back in 1989. I was there in Georgia, Atlanta. It's very cold. I thought the southern part of the United States should be very hot, but it's so cold, and I don't wear too much clothes. At the time, Mike have the vision to see the potential of this kind of association. So today, you know, we have an honor to have Mike to share his experience and to encourage any future hotelier for this industry. Please give him a warm welcome. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here with you all today, and especially because it's in this wonderful hotel, and I hope you're all enjoying the Venetian and the Palazzo, wherever you're staying. And besides, this is a very bad week for business, so we're happy to have any business we can. And I'm glad that there are some people. Usually there's so many people walking around here that you can't find your way from one room to the next. I'm a very fortunate person, and I've been in this business now for 52 years. However, as long as I've been in the business, and now I do a lot of work overseas, as I'm sure you know, we have many properties in Macau. I've been to Taipei and spent a lot of time. My Mandarin is horrible. I cannot speak, and it's so hard, I don't understand how all of you speak. So you'll have to understand my English, hopefully, and I hope I can get through to you with a few remarks. I started this business in 1961. It's a long time. Probably before most people in this room were born, I suppose, now that I'm looking at it. I know before Mr. Muir over here, Tim Muir, and Mr. Michael Muir were born, because I know them since they were born, believe me. My wife and their mother and father were teachers in the same school in North Bergen, New Jersey in 1962. And we grew up together with them and their other brother, and have been with me in business for many years in 3 different companies, I believe, and have done a great job. And they reminded me this morning that the Taiwanese Innkeepers Association actually had some initial funding from the company at Holiday Inn, I guess, at the time, at Holiday Inn sometime between 1990 and 95 when I was there. So I feel in some way honored to be a founder of this organization, the same as the HOA. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But let me start by going back to the 1960s. In the early 60s, the hospitality business was nothing like what it looks like today. And I started in the Hotel Roosevelt in New York City as a sales representative. And I didn't know anything about sales, and I didn't know anything about hotels. So I had no hospitality education. I was a political science major in college, and I never knew I was going to use my political science, but I've been using it ever since, because this is a political science business, believe it or not. And everybody knew much more than I knew. And I had to go on the street in New York City every day and make sales calls. Every day, my day started at 8:30 in the morning. I would write up my calls. I would go out on the street at 9:30, And in those days, you could make calls without appointments. And my boss told me I had to make 5 calls in the morning, come back at lunch, have lunch with a customer, make 5 calls in the afternoon, and then come back, write up my calls, and my boss would sit with me at night at 5:30 and go over every one of my calls to make sure I did the right thing. And that's how I learned to sell. And he gave me a quota, and I doubled my quota. And a story that most people don't know, at the end of 9 months, he called me in, and he said, I'm going to give you a raise. I was making $98 a week, believe it or not. And he called in and he said, I'm going to give you a raise of $500, or I'm going to give you a raise of $1,000. And he said, I'll give you $1,000, or if you want a title to assistant sales manager, I'll give you a raise of $500. So little did I know that it was going to cost me $500 a year for the rest of my life. I took the title and not the raise. So I thought that if I had a title, I could get many more sales because people would talk to me because they thought I was higher up in the ladder than just a sales representative. So I learned my selling and I learned my hotel all in the same company, which is then called Sonesta Hotels. They're still around, not very big anymore. And my background from then on went all through the different chairs of the hospitality business. And I began to work internationally about 10 years later. By the late 60s and early 70s, I was working in the Caribbean, doing a lot of work there. And then in 1970 and 71, spent some time in Europe, working in the European hospitality market in Germany and in London and in Italy. I first started to go to Asia in 1976. I was with American Airlines and Americana Hotels, and we had one hotel in Seoul, Korea. The hotel was called the Chosun. It's actually still there. We built 2 other hotels in Korea, one in what was then called Busan, now called Busan, and in a place called Gyeongju, which is a major city of large Buddhist shrines in Korea. Some of you may have been there. So I got my Asian experience and had offices in Japan and other places at that time, sales offices. I was a vice president of marketing at that time. And then I spent a lot of time in Mexico, a lot of time in the South Pacific. We had properties in Fiji and other places. So all through this experience, I got the experience that became sensitive to the needs and wants of not only my guests, but of the people that I worked with. But the major change in my career came in 1985, when I became president of Days Inns. Days Inns was the first major franchise company that I spent any time with. We had about 250 hotels at that time. And the major education for me was it's the first time that I had to meet with owners of properties like yourselves. Franchisees is the word that was used. Because from up until that time, in the first 14 years of my career, I spent it in company-owned hotels or company-managed hotels, but not with the franchise community. Somehow or other, I found that the franchisees were the most interesting people I had met in the hospitality business because they were all entrepreneurs, all individual owners, all basically small business owners. Some had grown to large business owners. But they put their money up, and it was always their money, their hard work. And most of them were family-owned businesses. And the idea of family-owned businesses appealed to me, and we had to grow the company. At the same time, we had in Days Inn at the time about 100 Days Inns that were owned by Asian Americans, primarily Asian Americans of Indian descent. The Patels, I'm sure you know them, and some others, some Shahs and a few others. I worked with these people for the first time. I had never been to India. I never worked with the community. And I had the experience when I went into Days Inn of asking some consultants in the business about what was going on in the franchise world. And they called owners, Indian owners, by a certain name. They said they ran curry palaces, something I'd never heard of before in my 14 years in the hotel business. And I later found out with friends of mine who were franchisees that they were having trouble, they were being discriminated against. They could not raise money, they could not get loans, they could not get insurance, and people were objecting to going into the hotels just because they were owned by them, which is something that I felt was unfair, unjust, and un-American. Because our country has forever been a nation of immigrants, a nation that people have come to for opportunity, to grow a better life for themselves, a better life for their children, and a better life for their grandchildren. And these individuals were being denied access to those kind of freedoms that could make them successful. So together with the help of my owner, or boss, who was Henry Silverman at that time, and a man by the name of Lee Dushoff, who some of you may have met along the way, and a man by the name of H.P. Rama, who eventually became the president or chairman of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, we put together a group of 8 or 9 people. Some were not Indians, some were Caucasian Americans, some were people who were interested in the business, and we formed a board for the Asian American Hotel Association. That association started with 12 people, now has over 10,000 members, and perhaps own much of the industry like yourselves here. When we started that association and started that work, other hospitality companies didn't like it. They thought we were doing something that was selfish for Days Inn. And it really wasn't. It was something that all of us who participated in that effort felt was something we had to do because it was the right thing to do. And fortunately for me, I was part of something that became very large. And after 52 years, when I look back on my history in this business, it's the proudest thing I ever did. Because it was more than making money, it was more than just business. It was something that we could relate to as something that was really right to do. And then when we got to Holiday Inn in the 1990s, and Holiday Express became available, Mike and Tim, who were sitting here, who were major parts of the Days Inn experience, became major parts of the Holiday Inn experience, started or worked with the people here. I think some of you may have been founders of this organization, with the same purpose, the same situation, the same values to make sure that everybody has the right to be in this business, because it's a business that requires hard work, it's a business that requires finance, it's a business that requires service to the guest and to the employees, and it's a business that has marvelous financial rewards when you're successful. And you can grow your business, participate in the communities in which you live, do something for your children and your grandchildren. And so that the tradition of AHOA became a tradition here as well. And I can see from the people here and the remarks that Tim and Mike have told me, and that Gerald has told me about, that this organization continues to be successful. And there are many Holiday Inn Express franchisees here, there are many other franchisees here, but you're all in your own business, and that's something that I really greatly admire. But I was asked today not to give just the history, but to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of hotels. Are we really a growth industry anymore? Or are we really just an industry that's, treading water? I've been very fortunate because in the 52 years I've been here in this business, I have seen global tourism and the global hospitality grow greater than any business has grown anywhere. Today, the travel industry employs in the United States is I think, the 8th largest industry. I just read something this morning about that. We employ a lot of people at the entry level and all the operating levels with great opportunities. And when I started in the hospitality business, there were probably 10 hospitality schools. Today, there are 500 in the United States alone that give hospitality degrees. And the opportunities have been brought to these companies and these kids through the growth in the industry globally. And fortunately for me, I go everywhere now. And I see it everywhere, particularly in Asia, where we as a company here, Las Vegas Sands, has a major position in Macau. I don't want you to raise your hand if you've been there, because it'll tell something about whether you gamble or not. But I'm sure you do. I know from the mahjong players and everything, whatever. But actually, Taiwan is about, I'd say about 4% of the business of Macau today, growing. And in the industry, the future of the industry, the casino industry in Asia is greater than it is here in the United States today, actually. So it's a big business. And the casino industry is not much different from the hotel industry, for those of you who think about that particular business, because it's still a hospitality business, still a business where you have to take care of customers, still a business that you have to train your people well and have the right kind of people working. And it is a very profitable business, but I should give you a warning, if you're thinking about it, you don't always win. Sometimes the customer does win. And in our business, we have some days where when I see some of the numbers, because we deal with very big numbers here, I see some of the days where I could build 7 microtels for the amount of money I lost that one day in our business. So it's a dangerous business. But the future growth in the United States for hospitality is still here. There are still opportunities. There are lots of obsolete products around, older products that have to be, as people say, we're under-demolished in this business. It represents opportunities to take away and build new. And there are also opportunities to rehab and rehabilitate those products that are older, rename them, and fix them so they can appeal to today's market and be more modern. And I'm sure some of you do both of those, either new build construction or take and rehabilitate older ones. Question here is, what is my vision of the Asian hotel owner growth expectation? Well, I can tell you this. My experience with people from your community and others who bring hard work, intelligence, and ethics to their business, there always will be growth opportunities for you. There's growth in acquisitions of other individuals' properties. There's growth in finding new development opportunities in areas that are growing significantly. And there's even growth in going into areas where products need new management because owners have gotten older or have retired, and a new energy can be brought in to the buildings. I have found in my career and in my lifetime that first-generation immigrants to the United States who make their way more difficult in the beginning, but the work ethic that they put into the buildings and put into their situation because they're interested in the opportunities that this country can still provide, can always find those opportunities, in spite of the fact that we have our economic problems, our fiscal cliffs, our difficult elections, and some tragic situations that we recently have experienced. That's life. Life is part of all of that. But you individuals here will continue to work, continue to try to improve yourself and your life. And I think we as a country can still provide the opportunity. And this business will not stop. This business will continue to grow, continue to go on, and continue to provide you, the owners and operators, opportunities to make a living, and a very good living at that. I can only say that there's a question here about Asia. Everybody talks about the Asian century, which is the 21st century. I don't have to tell you about Asia. You know more about Asia than I know or probably will ever know. I spend a lot of time there. I'm there about every 6 weeks. I usually do 3 or 4 countries a week when I go. I'll make a trip in January. They'll take me to Singapore, Macau, and Vietnam in a week. I've done Singapore, Korea, Macau, and Japan in 1 week. Hard to do, but I've done it. And I've spent some time in Taipei as well, looking for opportunities for our company to grow in those areas. The facility you're in is called, by definition, an integrated resort. And why? Because you never have to leave it. Everything you want here in terms of food, meetings, entertainment, sleeping rooms, anything, casino, anything that you want is here. So we integrate all, including shopping and malls and whatever. And we do that. We do that in Singapore, we do it in Macau, we do it here, we do it in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And these properties are very big. You're in the largest, if you didn't know it, you're in the largest property of its kind in the world. There are here 350 meeting rooms like the one you're in. There are 30 restaurants and bars, 4 theaters, and 7,100 suites. So this building by itself is a company, all by itself. And we have 6,500 full-time employees here and about 3,500 part-time employees here. We are non-union. Anybody hear that? We're the only major strip hotel, Las Vegas strip hotel, that is non-union. And it's been a principle of our owner to be non-union, and as a consequence of that, our employees get the best benefits on the strip. I hope you watch them and see them and note the attitudes that they have. We have a great staff here. So I don't expect really that anybody here yet is ready to build a building like this, but you don't have to be successful. I have known thousands of owners like yourself who are very successful in their own right in properties that are 80 rooms or 100 rooms or 200 rooms or 300 rooms. It's just a question of this one has everything. So for me, it's been a major situation to be able to end my career. This is coming to the end. I've got 24 months to go, but who's counting? My wife is counting. And we've been married 52 years, so she's been here from the very beginning. And this recent job is really one of the great opportunities I've ever had. And as I say, it's been a very interesting situation to work in a place whose numbers every day are really pretty staggering. But so are the risks. What can I say about encouraging the new generation, the generation after you? Like many individuals who go into business for themselves, oftentimes you find that your children will not want to follow you in the same business you're in. Maybe they cleaned the rooms when they were kids, maybe they checked people in, maybe they saw the hard parts of the business while the father and mother were putting money in the bank and they were working in the hard jobs. And some will follow you and some will not, and that's okay. That's okay. I have 3 sons, 1 is in the business and 2 are not. And so I never forced them into it. I said, you go and be your path. There are plenty of other pathways for your children. But you do leave a legacy of a successful business, which can help finance their education and send them in directions that you can still be proud of, whether they come or they go. So the growth potential in this business, as I said, is still there. And one question that Gerald asked me was to talk about how tough is the casino operation, or is there any secret to making the casino operation successful? The first thing you should know is that you don't have to be lucky. You don't have to be lucky. The odds are with you in the casino business, believe me. You have to be lucky if you're a gambler, but not lucky if you're an owner. But the major thing about success in the casino business is no different than the success in your business. There are two things you must do. The first is you must take care of your customer and treat every single customer you have, every guest that you have, that they're the most important person you've ever met. And the second is you have to have employees that will also treat the customer that way. There's no difference in the casino business than the regular, normal hospitality business when it comes to that. You are vulnerable in any business if you can't take care of your customer and you can't take care of your employees. The nicest thing about this job when I come in here in the morning, and for those of you who may have seen me, and I'm not sure because I walked in here this morning at about 6:10, and there aren't a lot of employees here, but I will tell you the night cleaners are here, and the people who polish the floors and whatever. And every day I come in, I say good morning, and they smile. And the security guard in front of my office, I say good morning, and he smiles. And that's a strategy to make sure that the relationship between those individuals and myself is the same as it will be for a guest. That when a guest comes by and asks them, where do I go, how do I go, because in this place, you're lucky if you don't get lost. Everywhere you go, you have to ask somebody, which is why we dress like this, so you'll know who we are. And then some people say to me, well, how do I get to the Berenice ballroom? And I say, you have to ask this guy, because I don't even know how to get there. But that attitude that you have towards your employee and your customer really are the critical keys. So how tough is the casino operation? It's a very regulated business. We have to follow a lot of rules. It's a very vulnerable business because you're dealing with tons of cash and chips and credit and all these kinds of things. Some of you may do credit to some of your customers, some not. But we have lots of difficulty and lots of management time. But it's a great business. It's a fun business. And but there is no other secret than your employees and your customers to being successful in it. And I think that's the same thing with every business. What I found over the course of my career is that people tend to forget who their customers and employees are. I never did. My principle is people who've seen me over the years, Tim and Mike who are here and seen me speak and have been with me forever. How many times do I talk about the customer? Always. And you know something? There's a statement that says the customer's always right. I can tell you, the customer's not always right. But the customer's always the customer. That's the difference. And that's what I would make the difference. So in your work and in your developments, in your management, in whatever, if you think through that kind of principle, it'll help you to be as successful as you want to be. How do you encourage a new generation of the future growth and opportunities in this business? I think that with the new generation, the ones that follow you, I see some young people here, I see some middle-aged people here, and I see some, well, not a few people like me. I'm probably older than anybody here. And let's see, anybody here 75 years old? No, I'm not asking if you feel like you're 75 years old. Well, I'm 75 years old a month ago. And so when I stand up in front of groups like this, I see people who are much younger and people who are in the middle and some kind of chase me. But I can tell you that to encourage the youth, encourage those that come after, you encourage them not by your business success. You encourage them by the kind of human being you are, the kind of person you are, the kind of values you have, the kind of ethics you bring to your business. And that's universal. For me, the greatest privilege, as I said, the greatest privilege I had was starting the whole, was the greatest business privilege. But the greatest privilege of this business is the people I have met along the way, from all walks of life, all races, all religions, all over the world. And they've helped me and to educate me that in the end, we may look different, we may come from different places, we may eat different foods, we may worship different ways, But at the end, there are common values in people all over this world, and I've been there in 60 countries. That what we want a better life for ourselves, a better life for our children, a better life for our grandchildren, and where we can, we want to make contributions to our society that'll make a better life for other people. And I fully believe that this business gives you that opportunity and that exposure to see people and to touch people in a way that no other business in this world gives you. And for that, I am very thankful that I've spent these years in it. It is not without difficulty, it is not without pain, it is not without frustration. But in this particular business, the gain is really worth the pain. And I'd like to thank you for the time this morning to talk to you. I'd be happy to take any questions. If you want about anything specific that you want to talk about, give me as much time if you want. If you don't want any questions, I know this is probably going to be a shy group, Jerry, right? But I'm happy to take any questions from the tables. But please let me leave you, if you don't ask a question, let me leave you with this thought. I want you to understand how fortunate you are to be in this business. And I want you to understand how fortunate it is that you can be with people who are willing to meet, try, influence, and continue to give you the opportunity to operate in this business and to own in this business, because it is one of the privileges that so many people that you know don't have. Besides, you could always end up being a lawyer. Who would want to do that when you can own hotels? So at any rate, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming, and thank you for being our customers. Thank you for what you're doing, and please, anybody who has a question, except Tim or Mike, I'm happy to answer the question.
Mr. Leven, my name is Steve Xu. I'm the past president of our association, and in the hotel industry, you probably met a couple of times, and I don't know if you know me or not. Well, with your great vision, you helped to start up the HOA. That's a great job, and with a great vision from you. And our association was thinking and considering have more relation with HOA, so we can share resources or exchange some resources. And I'd like to hear your advice. What do you think about that, or what assistance you can give us or advise us? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. If I understand the question, it says, what advice can I give this association compared to from my experience with the HOA?
No,
the relationship with the HOA? Well, I remember the early days of the HOA, actually. This is before Holiday. In the early days of the HOA, we tried to get the Taiwanese group involved, and it didn't really work that well. There were some attempts to do it because there were different needs in different locations and different situations. I don't think to me, I would look at the Taiwanese Innkeepers Association as having similar requirements, similar needs, but a HOA is a big, now bureaucratic organization, and you're a small entrepreneurial organization. And so I think that there's a conflict between the two in terms of they're much more, shall we say, mature, and they have all kinds of policies and all kinds of politics and all the stuff that make it difficult. A HOA achieved its goals. The original goal of the HOA was to be recognized as important, was to get freedoms and rights for their people that were equal. They paved the way for that, so that you more than likely don't have those difficulties that they had in the early days. So I don't think the relationship between the two is any more necessary than the relationship between you and the American Hotel and Lodging Association or any other association. I think you can continue to stay separate, continue to manage your own group, continue to provide your own needs, and but you should have a conversation at times and jointly do things when it comes to lobbying the government for things that you need, working with banks or lenders for things that you need, but you should remain independent and remain with your own requirements. So I would have a cordial relationship, a working relationship, but I would not think in any way of merging or being a part of. I think you are separate. It's a separate culture, and that doesn't mean that you can't do things together, but you don't have to marry them. That would be my advice. And so take what's good and leave what isn't. Be your own selves, your own personality, and your own values, and you can get along very well. But and they can be more helpful than hurtful, but you can still stay by yourself. Well, the key to AHOA's growth was that a few of the leaders of AHOA went and got the membership together. But it was very difficult. There were a lot of bumps along the way, and for 4 or 5 years it took a long time to get there. But today they're a mature organization, they're off doing their thing. I think many of them are more interested in the size of their convention every year and the amount of exhibits they have than they are in doing the things that they were really formed for. And that's okay. But for you, there's still a road upward as your community grows, as your ownerships grow. And I don't think you need to be anything more than a cordial relationship. Probably not what you want to hear, but that's the way I would think about it. And as long as you have people like Tim and Mike working for you or working with you and Jerry Wang, you'll do that. But it's one thing I would say too. It's what happens is that, I don't know if everybody understands this particularly, but politics is sort of an aphrodisiac, meaning it's people love doing politics for some reason. They love going to Washington. They love talking to their congressman. They love doing all this stuff. Now, I work for an owner here who's the largest provider of funds to the Republican Party. And when he goes to Washington, or he goes around the world, he loves it. And I love it too, because he leaves me alone during the time, so it's very good. And for him, he gets so stimulated and whatever. And AHOA spends a lot of time in government affairs, a lot of time in government affairs. You know what? Let them do it. Let them go to Washington. Let them go see their congressman. Let them do all that stuff. Spend your time running your businesses. Spend your time in your local communities. Spend your time understanding your marketplace and your people. Understand the rules. But if all of a sudden you're going to start sending committees to Washington, D.C., trust me, it's not as important as your local government is, your local mayor, your local officials. So they, as I say, they spend a ton of time doing that. They go to Washington every year. They bring people there. And you know what happens? Nothing happens. Washington is a sponge. It's a sponge for money, and it's a sponge for activity. The water, you know what a sponge is. You put the sponge in the water, it sucks up all the water, and then you look at it, you go, psh, the water goes out, the sponge goes back to work. Nothing really happens. And look what's going on now. They can't get together for what seems to me to be a simple problem. How can you make a compromise for the good of the country? Not good. So you can work with your local officials, let the big associations spend their time and money working with the guys in Washington. That doesn't mean you can't speak to your senator or your congressman or whatever, but don't make it a big part of your life. You'll miss the basic things about the business. Well, Mr. Adelson, who's my boss, does it all the time. I get left to run the business. Thank God for that. I like running the business.
Mr. Leven, this is Taiwan Daily News. I just interested in because you say you're looking for the chance in Taiwan, develop your career. But can you just tell us? How about in Taiwan if developing a casino is good or not, or any like the condition is good? Because you said political is very difficult in Taiwan, right? So can you just talk about which place you just the favorite in Taiwan if you want to develop your career in Taiwan, and and you think which which the condition is better than the Singapore or the other place? Any the good?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I understand all that. I'm not sure, but were you talking about Taiwan and what the possibilities are for casinos and these kind of things, and the talk about the islands, Matsu or something, whatever it is, and there's another one that begins with a K. Yeah, yeah. Let me see if I can take a second to define this business. The reason you're here in this hotel is not because it's a casino. The reason you're in this hotel is because it's holding a meeting and a convention. And so you would know, in Las Vegas, about 84% of the business here is repeat. About 14 or 15% of the business actually comes here to gamble. The rest come here for entertainment, for food, for restaurants, for shopping, and conventions in the city of Las Vegas. In the integrated resort business, the casino is basically an amenity for the whole integrated resort. So when you talk about casino in Taiwan, and particularly these islands, those of you I'm sure are aware that there's been some legislation passing about one of the islands that's in between Taiwan and the mainland China. Though there are, what Taiwan or Taipei should get is an integrated resort like this, that generates tourism, that generates convention and meeting business, that generates entertainment and large entertainment, such as the people that were here this week and the shows that are going on, and brings people to the island or the country, and brings people from outside and brings outside capital and outside money into the country. If it's just a casino, what it will do is only take money from the local population. Now, all casinos, even ours, do local business, but it should never be more than 25% or 30% of the business. So when you talk about a situation like Taipei, what we were talking about there is we can build a convention center and all of this that would add value to the tourism of the market. The casino is there simply to pay for the infrastructure of the building, because these buildings you're in now cost about $4.5 billion US. And the stuff we do is very expensive like that. In order to pay for it, you have to have some casino. But you should never talk about a casino alone. And you see some of that. I don't know where all of you live. Some of you live in California, I assume, right? Many still from, they used to be all from California. I suppose most are from California. Just so you know, California's casino market is $10 billion US a year. What I mean by casino market is that's the amount of money that is lost in the casinos in California, 10 billion. In Las Vegas, the amount that's lost is 6 billion. So California loses more money in the casinos. Now, where does that money come from in the casinos in California? Who are in those casinos? Californians, for the most part, almost all Californians. So it doesn't work. What California should have done was in a major city build a place like this where you could get tourists to come, so it wouldn't all come from California. So in Taipei or Taiwan or whatever, or in any of these islands, if those resorts do not attract tourism, then the government should not approve them and the people should not approve them. It's okay to have locals play, but they should be limited, as we do in Singapore. We limit locals by a fee, a large fee to get in. I don't know if anybody's been to Singapore, but if you're Singaporean, you have to pay $100 Singaporean to get in. So it keeps out poor people. But if you just put a casino and it doesn't develop tourism and doesn't develop that kind of income to a country, it's not worth it to do. So that's what they're careful about. In my talks when I went to Taiwan, I went to Taipei, we were talking about some sites in the Taipei area. And the reason for that was that not only is there a decent local market, but to draw conventions and meetings and international tourism, you can't draw it to a little island in the middle of this China Sea between mainland China and the mainland Taiwan. So I think that's what the problem is. That if you the legislation in Taiwan has always been to push it out to these islands, and those islands, in our view, we had no interest because we knew we couldn't do our kind of business there. So that's, but I'm not sure that they will be that successful. One island turned it down. The other island, I think, voted for it. But there's still some different legislation that has to take place before that actually happens. And they're talking about ferries bringing people from the mainland in there. And it's not enough. When we went to Macau, we built a big Venetian hotel like this one. And we do an enormous amount of business there, but we also do major convention business, international convention business, and we bring people from overseas. It's not only the Macanese citizens who live there, because it's a small amount of people, and very few of them play in the casino. Okay? You're welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You used the word integrated hotel to describe yours. Actually, it's gigantic and monster hotel. Is there any potential to build a small boutique hotel in Las Vegas?
I don't think so. I don't think a small boutique hotel in Las Vegas will work. Harrah's is doing one next door here at the Imperial House. Here's the thing in Las Vegas that one has to know. In Las Vegas, about 60% of the profitability, or the profitability of hotels, comes from non-gaming. About 40% comes from gaming. In this hotel that you're in, 70% of our EBITDA, or our profit, for all practical purposes, comes from non-gaming. 30% comes from gaming. If you build a boutique hotel, you're going to have to get about 100% of your profit from the non-gaming aspects. There's not enough gaming there to give you that other piece of profitability. The Cosmopolitan, I don't know if any of you know the Cosmopolitan Hotel over here. It was built for $4 billion. I forget the amount of, I think it's about 3,200 sleeping rooms. It's a big place. They have a very poor gaming operation there. Their rooms are filled. They do big business from their rooms. Their restaurants are filled and their nightclubs are filled. But they can't get a significant return on their investment because they don't have enough gaming play. So in a boutique hotel, if it's built for the right place, you might be able to make a little bit of money, but if you put a casino in it, it will not get enough to pay for the casino. So you'd be running sort of a rooms type operation. On that, if your entry cost is low enough, you can probably make a profit. But my guess is it won't be if it's on the strip because the cost of land is too high. So it would have to be off the strip somewhere, and then it would be difficult to attract enough to fill the rooms at a decent enough price. So it's very hard to do a boutique hotel here in Las Vegas. And I would not suggest if you were making an investment that you would build new. If you took an older place and were able to reconvert it into a boutique hotel and you were in there at the right price, you could make a living from the rooms, but you would not make a living from the casino. And there has to be a balance here in Las Vegas to do it. That's one man's opinion. Yes, sir.
Yes, you previously mentioned that Californian lost $100 million. I mean, a lot of money. And I heard also in Las Vegas, the biggest contributors are coming from California, or from Los Angeles even.
California is 52% of the traffic in Las Vegas comes from California. They don't have to come here to gamble. They can gamble in California. They come here for the rest. They come here for conventions, for meetings, for entertainment. They come here for restaurants, they come here for weekends, they come here for the clubs and all that kind of stuff. Some of them do gamble, but at the end result is, look, $6 billion of gaming win in Las Vegas. 2 of that's 33% of that gaming win, comes from one place. mainland China. 2 billion comes from the Chinese VIP market. Now there's some other Asian players in there, but the great majority are mainland Chinese who come here and play in the Bellagio, the MGM, us, the Wynn, Aria, those hotels that have what they call a VIP gaming market from Asia. There the many people play $300,000-400,000 for one hand of baccarat. Some play up to $800,000, one hand of baccarat. That's 1/3 of the total gaming win of Las Vegas. It's extraordinary, isn't it? It's unbelievable. I know. Unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. We had one of your countrymen here from Taiwan, actually, and was in Singapore recently. And he was that kind of player. And I hate to tell you what he won, but it was really enormous. We're trying to get him back so we can get some of our money back. But all those who win at that level eventually come back. You know, that's, so to California, they don't come here to gamble. They come here to play. They come here to have a good time. And I will tell you, the great thing about working in a place like this, too, is to watch people in the hotel. Everybody has a good time. Even when they lose, they have a good time. They have fun. And that's what Las Vegas is. So it's not just the image that you see on television in the Las Vegas shows or in the movies, The Hangover, and all this kind of things. Although the Hangover movie was very important to me, believe it or not. I don't know how many people ever saw that, but in the movie The Hangover, they show a lot of Las Vegas hotels. I had just come here at the time, and I saw everybody's name. I saw Harrah's, I saw Caesar's, I saw all these other names. When I couldn't see the Venetian. So I came in and I looked up and I said, gee, we don't have a sign that was lit. So then we had to light the signs. We had to put signs on the Venetian and the Palazzo. So now when I fly in here, or you can see it at night, you can see the signs. So the Hangover movie showed me that. So and you can't believe what it cost to put the signs up. I mean, it's amazing. I said I could have built a microtel for those signs, you know. So whatever. But yeah, this is when you break this business down into pieces and parts, and break Las Vegas down into pieces and parts, you can really see. For example, here, we will do next year about maybe 36% of our business will be conventions and meetings. That amounts to about 900,000 room nights. Picture that, 900,000, that's only 33% of our business. But without that business, we couldn't survive. But this is the kind of business that really makes it for us. Even though you're here at a very good rate, but it is because it's the right time of year, because Jerry said, what's the best time of year where I can get the best rate? I said, where are you going? He's going to some dump around the corner, so you got to come here. I said, you know, you can afford it. So, but move that's 70% of our profitability comes from that convention. 33% of our business, but it's probably more than 50% of our profit, because we do here about $100 million plus of banquet business a year. And it's a big business with good margins. As you know, rooms have very good margins. Banquets have very good margins. Casinos don't have that good a margin. You have to do very big volume in a casino. In a slot machine, for example, I don't know how many people, don't raise your hand, how many people play slot machines? Some, I'm sure. A slot machine, the margin, what you play, the house wins maybe 7% of what you play. Now, you may not feel that way because you probably lose more, but the average, I go by averages, you only win about 7% of what's played. So you got to play an awful lot to make a lot of money. So we sell a lot of rooms too. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I don't know how long you're going to be here, but enjoy yourselves and have a good time. And there are many restaurants you can eat in, and enjoy the facilities. I hope most of you are staying here. We just spent a lot of money rehabilitating 1,000 rooms in the Venezia Tower. I don't know if anybody's in that facility. We just redid our casino, and so it's the capital budget here, the maintenance budget's very big every year, and to maintain our profitability. It's a very competitive market, like all your markets, I'm sure are competitive. But I just leave you again to say, you're associated and you're in a wonderful business. It's got good margins to it, and all you got to do is take care of your customers and employees. You'll be successful. But make sure you buy it at the right price. That's the key thing. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Thank you. I think we all owe a lot of appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Levin here because, as you guys already know, Mr. Levin comes from a very, very extensive background and has been very supportive to not only the AHOA but also to our association as well. I had the pleasure to meet with him when he was over at the Holiday Inn system, when he was over at the Hawthorne, the USFS system, when he founded all these organizations. And I think he was very, very humble in terms of saying that the only success that he saw as looking back was the formation of the AHOA. But I think he's created definitely a definite legacy. I think Tim and Mike probably can vouch for that as well. So once again, great appreciation. Thank you so much for spending the time. Really appreciate it.
Some of our government officials from tourism department, Mr. Lee and Mr. Wu. Thank you so much. I think we learned a lot from Mark.